Hey guys, Brian Cooney here, owner of Pretty Boy, the all-purpose paint cleaner. Had a half day today. I wanted to talk about cleaning the brush two different ways. The product's been online now for available for about a year, so I've seen dozens of different ways people use my product, and I just kind of wanted to make sure that everybody understands that the soaking method, vice going straight on with it with the brush. So basically, if you have multiple brushes and you get busy during the job and you don't want to stop and clean your brush, I always stop and clean my brushes. But I do this for a living, and I always want to see how the paint reacts with the brush and how it works. So I'm always curious. But I see that a lot of you guys will throw your paint brushes in a bucket and get to them later, and that's fine. Just be careful. The main thing I want to talk about today is the ferrule and the reeds that are below it. So you got to be careful the level of water that you have here when you're soaking your brushes. I kind of took a measuring tape, and your average brush is probably 2.5 inches wide or 2 inches wide, and it give you about if you can see this, gives you about 3 inches to play with. So I would put the water level around 2.5 inches or below and put some Pretty Boy in there. Just take a little bit, put it inside the bucket, put some water in there. And this could be sitting wherever you want, outside or by the anywhere in the sink area. So if you get busy, you got 3 colors going, you're doing some primer over here, your guys are doing the bathroom, or somebody's doing something else, and you want to clean the brushes later, that's fine. Just keep the water level below, I'd say 2.5 inches. Because if you get the water level above into the ferrule, depending on the brush, this is Premier brushes, the guys that are in New York, they're awesome brushes I use. Or you've got Zachary brushes, which I love as well. They're out of Canada. And you have the brush I always started with, which is the Purdy brushes. They all have different type of reed systems. They have different type of wood that's below the ferrule. The ferrule, of course, is the metal part. And we call this part of the brush the heel, the body, and, of course, the toe. So be careful if you're going to leave your soaking in Pretty Boy solution. It's fine. But just make sure the water level is below the ferrule. And it'll basically keep everything wet and loosen the paint. And when you're ready, let's just say it's been soaking for a couple hours, and you put through them in there from 2 o'clock till 5 o'clock, and it's quitting time. And you just take the brush you want and just start working it with. By the way, these are my new Pretty Boy Groomer cleaning brushes available online. And you just take the brush and you can just clean it up from that point on, rinse it out, and go. Also, one of my buddies from South Carolina, Hutch, that owns the brush tote, talks about using the actual water to basically agitate the brush and get the actual paint higher up into the brush, which is a good idea. Can really get every bit of paint out of it. So normally what I do is, if I don't have time, I would spray them down with Pretty Boy. Instead of soaking it, I would just take the product, hit this like this, and leave it flat on the counter. That way I know that the solution is keeping the paint wet until I can take it off properly with a wire brush. But everybody has their own way of working it. Pretty Boy's going to do the job of breaking down the paint and also conditioning the fibers. But the only danger you're going to run into is leaving a dry brush or soaking in there with paint, and then gets to the point where maybe you've painted too far and the paint gets inside what the danger zone, as we say, too far into the heel. That's where preconditioning really helps. So, but this is fine. If you want to do a bucket of water with a couple tablespoons of Pretty Boy, you can soak some light plates in there. And again, when you're ready to clean it up, you can agitate it a little bit, bring the brush to the sink, work it through. And since it's been sitting, it's ready to go. Then just, at this point, just rinse it off. Just take it like this, get the excess off, do the old spin. And then just let it brush, let the brush. That's the Zachary brush. I love these brushes. Just let it sit. And then same thing, got the Purdy brush. Take the excess off. Spin it out. And see how fast you can clean these brushes. You can go through 5 or 6 brushes. So that once again, if you're going to you don't want to clean the brushes right away. You want to have your guys or yourself throw them in a solution. So either spray them down with Pretty Boy, leave them flat on the counter. If you want to throw some into a solution, make sure the solution is around 2.5 inches or lower. If you fill this bucket full of water and you soak the brush in there, and the water gets above the ferrule, depending on the paintbrush, and I'll find out more about the actual construction. We've been going back and forth with different manufacturers, but there's a reed in there, depending on there's a piece of wood in between the bristles, and if that gets wet, it'll swell, and then you get what's called a bell shape. So then the sides of the brushes will be bouncing out outside, popping out of the ferrule, and then it's ruined. And just take it down like this. These are the Premier brushes that actually have a factory in Queens, and they're great. I've been using them for years as well. So there you go. So now you got 3 brushes done. I hope this made sense. Like once again, you're using multiple brushes. If you just have one brush, then just stop and clean it. If you want to, if you left it out and there's paint way up high in the heel, and you can soak it if you want, but just watch the water level, okay? Any other questions, you can email me, Brian, at prettyboypaintcleaner.com, or hit the info button online. Thank you so much for all you that bought the product and supported me, and we'll be talking real soon. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.